Okay, awesome. I think I'd like to kick off with really just where Unini ended from, right? And I think one of the key things she talks about, which was inspiring through actions and walking the talk. How have you been able to ensure that you have a sales team, a high-performing sales team that not only follows orders but respects you, because you're also pulling your weight in terms of bringing in revenue. I mean, without revenue, whatever business you're doing is not business. So have you been able to have a sales team that earns your respect in that way? Maybe you can go ahead, please.
Okay.
Yes.
I think one of the speakers mentioned, I think the last speaker talked about that you need to, lead by showing and not by instructing, right? And as a founder, your first role, I know that, at some point you think it's fundraising, but it's actually sales. And so very early on, when we pitched to the first investor and they didn't believe us, I just, fast-sheet the investors and focused on, sales and selling to customers. And so our first 5, 6, 7, 10 companies, I was the one-man army salesperson.
Yeah.
And so we raised sales money without needing venture capital, and we were okay, we were profitable before we even raised our first round. And so that when I tell that story to our sales team, right, and how, I sent cold emails on LinkedIn, I stalked CEOs at events, I went for sales pitches, there's like, I've done that, right? And so it's always just trying to get your hands dirty, whether it's operations, whether it's customer service, whether it's sales, whatever, any, department in the company. As a founder, you need to know, every part of the whole company.
Yeah, I mean, that's superb, right? I mean, because if you're getting into a sales meeting and for, let's say, performance has dipped a little bit, you're not just barking at them and not really knowing. There's no empathy in terms of what the actual sales process is like. You've walked this thing before, so you can let them know that, okay, I understand where you are, but look, guys, we need to, do this, do that. So, great. How about you, sir? Have you been able to ensure that your team has remained solid drivers and not just worry about the car or the vehicle?
Yeah, I'll just, to piggyback on that point, is that when you start a new company, the first type of sales is founder-led sales, right? And you need to kind of, for you to even get the right types of salespeople, you need to have demonstrated that you can deliver. And it's great to continue to have that reputation as the person that can make it rain, right? Like, even if you're busy with so many things, I think that's kind of reputation I have, right? Right? If I join in the sales process, I'll get my customers, and I try to always have my customers. So in fact, my feedback to the team is, hey, my customer is complaining about this thing, right? Like, what's happening here? And so that kind of creates, and then join them in brainstorming sessions as well. And I think one of the things we used to do, and we still do once in a while, is everybody's listening to everybody else's sales pitches. So I would join in on the call, you listen, we'll review that process, like, how did you say it? The person did not respond well, are you sure? And then I'm there as well, so that helps.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. All right, so Ken, have you been able to ensure that your team feels valued?
So that's a great question. Thank you. So when we started in 2019, one thing that was key for us was the customer. I mean, we started with customer obsession in mind. Another thing that we understood clearly was that the sales team would be one of our greatest assets. And one way we try to ensure that the sales team bought into our vision and our long-term goals. If your sales team does not align with your vision, you might as well be selling or be pushing a team and not the team pushing your product. So one of the things we try to do is to ensure that the team understands where we're going to. Why are we here? Why is this organization even created in the first place? Do you buy into our vision? And what do you need? What motivation do you also need to drive that vision. For every organization, your sales team is the UI. They are the first people that your market will see. So if they do not feel compelled to push your product, there is absolutely no way your product will thrive. Having a good product is good. Having a strong sales team is amazing. That's one thing that we built. We literally built a sales cult that I think I would say, not to brag, is one of the strongest in Nigeria today, because they bought into our vision. We got the feedback on what would motivate them, and we aligned our vision, our long-term goals with that motivation, and together we literally are all driving the vehicle to success.
Awesome. I mean, I've just learned a new catchphrase, right? The sales team is the UI. Well, literally, that's the truth, right? Especially for B2B businesses, right? The sales team are usually the first customer touch points. They're the ones that the prospect would most likely speak to first. I think in some sessions earlier, we talked about personality, talked about even the dressing as well, down to dressing, right? And it's really important that they feel valued enough to be able to project the kind of value that you have put on your company and on your organization. All right, so let me go to Mr. Damlola once again. So how does leadership create a culture that attracts, retains, and also empowers top-performing sales professionals? And how do you incentivize and motivate them beyond just?
Okay, I think that this one is not just like peculiar to the sales team. It's peculiar, it's for the overall, talent retention strategy for the company. And I think the first thing would be to have a healthy culture. Last year, we looked at our sales, our target for 2024, and we thought that, we needed to replicate. We had one champion salesperson, and we wanted to scale that person, right? So how can we find more of this person, right? Now, brain, we said, we are going to hire 6x of this person so that we can do 6x of the thing. Little did we know. We scaled, we brought in problems, because we were trying to look for high performers and people that could deliver. And by the time we did our Q1 company-wide survey, we were hearing people saying cutthroat. I'm like, where? As in, we were hearing words about like people doing like cutthroat people. So the high performance that we're looking for brought in another set of cultural problems, right? And was now stifling the other talents that we even had in other departments. So what we then realized is that, hey, we're going to prioritize a healthy culture over trying to over-engineer, looking for a high-performance team. So we prioritize ensuring that we retain the good ones and ensuring that we have a great culture and using other metrics, using understanding what kind of companies do we need to focus on more than the people. Okay, is it the middle level people that we need to bring in? Is it the high performer that we need to bring in? And when people say, Shala always says, fire fast, hire slow, you don't listen until, because if you want to be aggressive with sales, you feel like you need to hire, 20, 30 people to get, the work done. But what that brings is that it might bring in a very toxic, culture into the company. So we prioritize healthy culture over ensuring that you want to meet, ambitious targets. I did a course one time that, also showed that you can also have high growth that can kill the company. So you can grow aggressively and not sustainably. So people can do great things. You can 10x, and you don't know that you've broken like the fundamentals of the company. So we prioritize healthy and sustainable growth. Yeah.
All right, great. So just to add, what, in terms of maintaining and prioritizing the culture, what sort of incentives did you or have you engineered around this culture? That because incentives are not just for commissions or bonuses, but I've also learned through experience as well, that if you want your employees or if you want your colleagues to get something done, find an incentive around it. It may be as little as whatever it is, right? But just find an incentive around the actions that you want to be done. So having been able to do that.
So I'll first of all talk about the cultural thing and the example that I gave. One thing that we did was that once we identified those, toxic traits, we eliminated them as fast as possible. Like, we did not mind that we're not going to meet our targets, because we just try to remove the bad actors so that we can retain the talents that we wanted to retain. And because we realized that more than having the best salary, people really want to work in a place where they are comfortable, they love people that they work with, and they have genuine connections, right? That's number one. Number two is the incentives, is just really appreciating people for the work that they do. We do that in our town halls, we do that in our mini meetings, whether it's managers' meetings or sub-meetings. Another thing that we then did, we did last year, was that we created a special award for the top, salesperson of the year. And we attached a very, juicy gift. It was a car. So if there's anybody here that wants to work at Shotlas sales team, please come. So yes, so we started becoming very creative with designing incentives that would attract top sales talents.
Because I personally think incentives are very, very important, especially since we are talking around sales and driving high-performing sales teams, because you cannot keep pushing and asking your sales team to do A and you're incentivizing them for doing B. They would leave A and do what you don't want them to do. So really engineering incentives around what you want to achieve is a really, really important aspect of driving success through sales leadership. All right, thank you so much. Mr. Boye, I got it right, Mr. Boye. All right, so in your experience leading sales transformations, what are the most significant challenges you faced, and what concrete strategies have you found to be the most effective in navigating these challenges?
Sales transformation can mean a lot of things, I would get to that. Just a little bit about incentives. I heard recently of a company where, similar to how banks work, they tell everybody to go and make sale. And then because they make the money in dollars, they put a commission thing there. And in less than 6 months, everybody's fighting themselves. Like, marketing is fighting sales. Everybody, is cutthroat in a way that you can't imagine. And and when I heard that story, I heard that, the CEO was happy that was happening. I wonder how that to play out. Let's just keep looking and seeing. But I don't think that that's something that I would advise that we do. I've seen, developers wonder why they have to go and sell. When I involve people that are not salespeople in the sales process, it's usually to understand the customer profile, understand the customer behavior, because that's what they're building for. So that's just to say that. Let's treat transformation that you're talking about as essentially changing your sales team, like really. And I've had to do that before, or essentially either changing them by taking some people out, bringing some people in, like reshuffling, like the last speaker said, or changing the way that they behave, right? So for example, my sales team in Greeley had to move from just doing offline sales to, using HubSpot very actively, and by the way, using HubSpot for the web is different from using it on mobile. And then using HubSpot to actually make the calls is different from just putting information. Like, we got to the point where they're using it very actively, and then take it a notch to using analytics, to figuring out what really is happening, where are they dropping off. Those things, helping salespeople understand Mixpanel wasn't very easy, right? They're just like, why? And then you need to now explain to them. But I think we use Mixpanel to the point where, and then we integrated it into HubSpot. We had to integrate. And then what we found was that, so having a mindset of experimentation helps a lot for transformation. So it's like, I think it was last week who said that you let the salespeople do their research and then come out with the data And that way they're already informing their next decision, or they're informing the direction that, you're already going to say that they should take, right? So once we start exposing, salespeople to data, that kind of data-centric thinking, they were able to use that data to make certain kind of decisions that were the direction that we thought, they should make. So these are like that mindset of experimenting, A/B testing, right? So it's because what I've seen is saying all the salespeople, we will move here, everybody now. As a founder, you do have the authority, but it may not be the best way to use the authority, right? So you force everybody. I've done it before. So nobody's leaving this place until they call 100 people. But what I've seen, that instead of talking about exactly saying that you should call 100 people, or you basically then focus the incentive. Say, for example, a monthly bonus for the person who figured out a new way to get customers, right, and things like that. Then basically start to drive them in that direction.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, reminded me of early days at Cloudplex. Right, it was tough. All right. So yes, I mean iteration, but iteration also comes with when your sales team when they feel valued in terms of ownership. Rather, I think that's a better word. When there's ownership, because no matter how much you as a sales leader want to iterate, if the sales team who are actually doing and getting the data and all of that are not taking ownership to actually see that I can do this in a better way and improve the sales process, it may become a bit of a hassle getting that kind of sales transformation. Right. All right. So it's okay. Before I go to the question, I want to ask. Maybe other people are also thinking, how did MoneyPoint handle 2023 surge? I mean, when we had the currency, the lack of cash, right? That was 2023, right? January, thereabouts. Yeah. It was almost as if MoneyPoint was ready for it. Like you had a soothsayer that told you, okay, this is going to happen. And how did the company really just adapt to that surge of demand and just pick up like that? I'm sure that must have taken a toll on the sales. How? Please tell us before we get into it.
I think 2023 was a sweet year for us. It really was. No, 2023, that it was the crash
started the
cash
sweetness.
crunch, right? It was a sweet year for us, and I think it still ties again into the culture/cult that we have created.
You had the culture prior to that.
We absolutely
time.
did from 2019, and I think it is one very important for founders and startups. You need to cultivate that culture, like he said. If you don't start at the foundation, you're not going to build a framework that can live beyond you, even as the founder, right? So in 2023, we were fully ready because we had an amazing network of sales team, from the agents up to literally even to the vice president, right? The entire team band together to source for what the market needed. And we, through communication, through, using the network, leveraging the network that we had, leveraging the connections, leveraging the relationships we had, we're able to storm through. It was really an amazing year for us, to be honest. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, we all know. We all know because MoneyPoint was the company to be in 2023. So how were you able to actually remain efficient? Okay, you talked about ensuring culture before this kind of things happen. So can you suggest some tips for developing the next generation of sales leaders? And how do you ensure that your sales team remain effective in the face of market shifts and business evolution?
So in developing the next generation of sales leaders, I think
before you respond, I think I'm going to also ask that same question because I think it's really key, because she talked about living something that outlasts you, right? As a founder, people move on, right? People move on either location-wise or company-wise. People move on. How do you ensure that that's just prepare your best work?
I think first and really important is mentorship. Today, I see a lot of sales professionals, and the caliber I see today, sorry to say, is way different, unfortunately, from second generation where I started, the one before me and, probably the one immediately after me. And I see a lot of mentorship gaps. I literally started immediately after school and jumped into eTransact, and the mentor I worked under was a fantastic salesman. He taught me everything from understanding sales from the product perspective, the technical perspective, that I would walk into a room to sell and I wouldn't need my IT person unless someone starts talking about writing code, and I'm like, okay, this is where I'll stop. Let me call someone in. But then today, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to get that kind of mentorship. And I think it's probably our fault because we've been too busy trying to build the startup, because once you're working for a startup, anyone who has worked for a startup can testify to the fact that you work 26 hours every day until you reach a particular level, and then you now try to build certain processes in place. So I think maybe it's probably our fault, but mentorship is very important. If I'm able to mentor the team I lead, they would be able to carry out sales in an efficient way, in a way that would, ensure that not only is the organization's needs met or the organization's expectations met, but also I'm building still leaders also that can lead other people. So mentorship is really key, right? Then also resilience. A lot of sales people I meet today, they start today, they just want to make sure that they get deals tomorrow, 1 week later, 1 month later, and it's not feasible. I don't blame them, I blame the companies, because I also am a recruiter, and I know what I ask when I'm speaking to someone. I'm asking them, so when you come in, how long will it take you to convert these deals, right? So it's probably our fault, but resilience and consistency, right? Don't expect to close this quickly. Ensure that you've built your own strategy, follow through, and remain consistent. There are all these doors that you need to knock on. Then I think lastly, I would say your network. Someone told me one time that your network starts literally from when you walk out of the door. Whether you're going to use that contact in that moment, 2 years later, 3 years later, it doesn't matter. But having to understand how to build and cultivate a sustainable relationship that will last over time, it's very, very important. I know I've walked into a meeting before to pitch, and I was there with another competitor, and literally I just went and I talked to the person, took the person's number, saved the file. I mean, they're my competition, but I don't know what will happen tomorrow. So it's really, really important as a salesperson to start developing all these and cultivating that.
Awesome, thank you. Damola, please.
So for us at Shortland, I'm not really focusing on sales because it's just because it's the same strategy for all the departments, right? One thing that we realized that was key for us, that at some point, I think was, whether it's 2023 or 2024, there was like a huge wave of talent, right? And then we were asking, so, this set of old talents that we have, how do we, like I said, I wanted to scale some of them in the company. And then we started a program called Shortland's Next Gen. And then we started, scouting for students and young graduates, talented ones, like from university, federal universities. I even went there myself. I said, I'm a product of Unilag, so we must find them. Went to engineering, went to speak to them, went to finance department, went to speak to them. And for each cohort, we've been having 200, 500, 1,000 people apply. What we do is that we start training them to understand our culture. Because we realize that once we interview people, we tell them that, hey, we work hard at Shortland, they won't believe us. When we tell them that our core values, I have an acronym called SERVICE, and that S is service obsession, velocity. They don't believe until they enter. It's like, we need to customize, people that are like us, and just help, the managers, the leads, find these young talents that would help them, drive this, efficiency across the company. So we've done that for 3 or 4 cohorts now, and has been largely successful. And so we don't have any major need to even hire for entry level or the second level anymore, like, because we have, like, for the first 3 months, they are just being trained, they're not doing any work, and they are going through all the other departments, and they're learning the ropes, especially the culture that we have of being fast, but being fast in the right direction, being service obsessed, because if you don't understand what we are doing, you understand why we have to work every time, and just being, you need to also, like, for the what kind of work that we do, like, it's really hard. Let me just say, moving people every day and ensuring that they get to their destination from point A to point B. You need to have that passion, and so we look out for those people and we try to instill that in them by building that harmony. Yeah.
So emphasis on culture even before they actually start doing any actual work. Awesome. So, boy.
Just remind me the question again.
Okay, so the question is, how do you raise the next generation of effective sales leaders within your organization?
Yeah, I think let me start with the story of how we got to hire our head of growth. We were experimenting at the time with the idea of online tutoring. And so we said, in order to do this experiment, we didn't have a platform like that for that. So we used Zoom, and then we hired a tutor. We basically asked teachers, because we had schools, we had like over 1,000 teachers at the time. So we asked teachers to apply, and then we got one really good teacher. And then he was teaching so well that the parents loved him, and then they wanted to see him in person. And so we did some parent mixer and stuff like that. So he was the first person to earn ₦1 million as a tutor. And then at some point he started inviting other people to work with him. Now we started seeing that he was a leader, because these other tutors would depend on him for, like, how do you get that level of excellence, in total, I think for his group, for his cohorts, because he now had a cohort, he made like ₦4 million very quickly for them. And then we now pitched him and said, this thing you're doing, just come and do it, but now as a salesperson. So we kind of converted a teacher to a salesperson. That process is something that we've tried to replicate. It doesn't always work. Not all teachers are salespeople. they don't know how to sell. But like, what we found out is that people who are first of all educators, there's a passion with the idea of helping kids learn that they pass on in how they sell. And so we always look out for, now we have like hundreds of teachers, but like, we always look out for those skills, and then we now try to invite them over. So there's that, and then we now attach them to this leader and some other leaders, just like you said, to mentor them in the process. And one thing you just said about mentorship is the way I learned mentorship, because I find that some people say, they say mentorship, but what they mean is I'm doing the work, just watch me, observe me, and they don't get any one-on-one time. Like, that's not really mentorship. Mentorship is actually checking in, and doing that consistently over time. That's actually how to develop that kind of mentorship, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Napa is giving us hi. All right. Do we have any questions? All right. Great.
Good evening. My question is for Dami. Was there any difference in your sales architecture structure from your first $1 million revenue to the next one? What had to change? Was it the same system that delivered both? What changed in the structure from 0 to 1 million and 1 million to the next?
Okay. I chuckled because that one man army actually did $1 million revenue. So that's how I'm trying to figure out how to answer the question. But the team has changed, several times, and we've made a lot of mistakes as well. And I always say culture, because once I and my co-founder tried to understand what's that common thing that is inside us, is inside him, inside the people that are high performance. Like, we documented it into like a culture document, right? And whenever that is not present, whenever we try to hire somebody and we see in the first 3 months, it does not work out. If the person is not obsessed with our solution, because we have an acronym called service, if they are not efficient, if they are not respectful to their colleagues, if they are not fast, velocity is you are speed in the right direction. I is integrity. C is communication. E is, I think, excellence. If you don't have those things, it's difficult for you to be like us. And in 3 months, we realized that almost like there's a, you know how like people will then identify that this guy is going to go. He's not going to be confirmed. So very easily, the system ejects the low performance even before we tell them that we're sorry, we can't confirm you. But then again, I won't say that we've not really scaled the sales team because of this culture issue. Because you find that you see very, very great salespeople and very bad culture. And then you need to decide as a company, what are you going to prioritize? Are you going to prioritize a cutthroat culture or a healthy culture? And we always pick a healthy culture. So right now we have 3 or 4 business lines. So one thing that we also did was we also changed the organizational structure in the company because we have different products. And then we have sales teams that focus on different sales business lines. So when you divided them into those business lines, people have that focus. So we can have 3 people, 4 people, 5 people in those business lines, but they are laser focused on delivering, revenue in those business lines. I think that's one of the major shifts that we've done that has helped us achieve our goals.
Questions for Dami. I don't know if you said it intentionally, but you said you had like a sales team, you have culture, and then you have 3 months, right? Okay. You have 3 months probation period. So they go through this and like you're waiting for 90 days. And I'm founder, right? And I've hired a couple of salespeople, and I can tell you for a fact that personally it's taking me 7 days to let someone go. All right, so I'm just wondering. I kid you not.
What have you done in 7 days?
I'm serious. So to be honest, I use that as an example, right? Because when I hire salespeople, so my question really is like, why do you wait for 90 days? That's my question. I honestly, I swear by this, right? That it does not take more than 30 days to tell if somebody is serious or if your culture, like you said, you have service from the first week. Are you S? Are you E? Are you R? If you're not, why will you be the same person in the second week?
I like that. But see, you need to understand your own sales cycle, right?
Okay, yeah.
You need to understand your sales cycle. So we have different tiers of companies, right? Whether it's a 1,000-man company to a 50-man company, right? If in 3 months we see that you are prospecting a tier 1 company, right? And we're not seeing any conversion. It's already signs that you're not going to be successful. If you're prospecting a tier 2 company and we brought you in for tier 2 or not tier 3 or whatever, there are signs, but you need to understand your sales cycle. If your sales cycle is 1 month and you can do your probation as 1 month, all well and good. But if you have some products are even 1 year, so you can't fire somebody in 7 days. And you have to also know that this ecosystem is very small. And you are not only, how will I say it now? The top talent are also choosy about the companies that they are going to.
Yeah.
So as you're picking people, they're also picking you. So you also have to set a good reputation for your company so that when people are asking out there that, oh, I want to go to this company, what do you know about them? And say, don't go there, or that guy. In 7 days, you are gone.
But, so I have a follow-up. And I agree with you in sales guys. Our sales cycle is pretty short. I think it was Deji that said, if the money is not coming in, you're not selling. Right, and for us, like it takes, and I sort of do it myself, and I go out. So I slow down sometimes, and I go out again to just show you that it can be done. Like the fact that you're doing it and I'm not doing it does not mean I can't do it, right? But then following up after that. So like letting someone go in 7 days, for me, and this is just me, and then getting another set of people and using the same yardstick. For me, it sort of worked. And I mean, I don't know much about shortlers. I mean, I know you guys are out there, right? But I'm almost so sure that if I joined, right, it will be a bit different. Do you get? Because I don't know. I think the way salespeople behave or think sometimes, it's just, I don't know. It's really sad for me sometimes.
There's a HR element to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you can, in some countries you can get sued if you don't follow the right procedure.
We're only in Nigeria.
No. But you're building a global company.
It's probation.
Don't worry. So what I would just add there is that it depends on what company you want to build. That's it.
Just to add that, because I've seen where it's not possible. Just like literally on paper, it's not possible to fire someone that you went through a proper process of hiring in 7 days. Just not possible. Just not possible in Nigeria. Just not possible. Because of the process. I'm telling you, no,
Sorry.
The process.
Sorry, 7 days firing aside. My question is regarding, like, 3 of you, and it's regarding sales compensation, right? Comp planning. And I think this is one of the key problems that always arises within a sales organization. How to prepare a sales comp plan that first recognize your unit economics, right? Because in some products, you only have, 5% gross and then maybe 2% net. And see, in fintech, you're doing around 2 to 5% net based on volumes. And then we're talking about transportation. It's somewhere around the 15. Sorry if I'm calling these numbers. I'm a consultant, so I can tell you for like my experience. And then you have to get to a number that first can take on your runway, right? And then allows you to be profitable to invest in your business. Comp planning is always the headache, because in some cases it can work when it's a team of 10. But when you start expanding, going across country, territory, sizing, and all of that, becomes hell. What has worked for you guys as you scale your business? Has it been a case of when we get there, we'll change our planning, or you would plan from day one? Or you just, as you meet it, you just change? All right, thank you.
I think, what has worked for us is transparency, communication, and a piece of the pie. So if I, as a salesperson, I know what is being charged, this is what we are charging, this is what our fees are, this is who we give this to. From that, I would expect my company to give me more than is available. So if I'm transparent with my team and I say, see, this is what we are charging, I'm charging 0.5%. CBN will take this bank will take this is what's left. This is what you're getting. And we try to make it fair. Because in fintech, in my space, it's a numbers game. So my throwback to you is, see, if you do 1 million per day, this is the multiplier effect. Increasing is, based on my experience, we haven't had any reason to say, let us increase the percentage share, the revenue share, because every successful salesperson, and 80% of the people in the team are successful. Every successful salesperson has seen the multiplier effect, and it's a consistent thing. There is no cap. There is no truncation of any sort. There is no cap. That's what makes, and that's why I said earlier that it's literally like a cult. Like, if you decide to join our team, you literally already have testimonials from those that are there that will tell you, see, I've literally been made a 180 millionaire because this is where we started. This is what my portfolio looks like, right? This is what my cabal looks like, and this is what I'm getting in return.
Does anyone else want to answer that?
You have to know that you have to know your own industry. We can't do no cap, because we want to be profitable. Anyways, but you already answered the question towards the end. What we do is that we review it every 6 to 1 year. We review our compensation plan. And sometimes we can decide to go maybe 5% or 2.5%, depending on our goals or the team size. But we review it every 12 months. Yeah.
And just to add, like, emphasize that point about transparency, also like transparency on the unit economics, on the cost itself, right? And then giving a little bit of ownership of that P&L.
Yeah, but that also adds to employee ownership. Yes. That kind of transparency.
Okay, thank you. You made mention about mentorship, and it struck me because I've had several ups and downs, So, question, maybe even more than one person can intervene. How do you discern the right person to mentor in order to avoid wasting your time or heartbreaks, or sure that the person, this can be sustained?
So for me, right, it's hard work, but it's an investment that would yield returns if done well, right? I mean, she mentioned something about how you can have a go-getter, a sales, a closer, but the person is not teachable. The person has toxic traits itself. So one thing I do once, before you even start selling, first of all, I will take you through that orientation period, that 7-day period. I don't know. The first in that period, right? I'm going to teach you the values of the team you are joining, and because I've built such a culture, I can communicate clearly those values to you. I will tell you, because we have people from banks that come in and will tell, and when they're having conversations, because we run a flat structure, there is hierarchy, but at the same time, it is, open door, it's a flat structure. They will tell you things like, in the bank, this person cannot talk to me like this, right? So part of the orientation is letting you understand where you're coming into. And also telling you what I expect. I expect you to be teachable. I expect you to teach me as well, because it's always a give and take, right? I expect you to teach me. I expect you to be open-minded, right? Because one of our values is candor. We are very, very particular about this because that's how we built the empire we have. So one other thing I do is feedback. Feedback is very important to me. Up, down, down, up is really important. I have to consistently tell you where I think you can improve and all that. Those who are serious, and you see people who want to learn, you see the transformation. And before you know what's happening, this person is now mirroring you, and you can send them out in your place at any point in time. Those who do not, like he said, you can let them go. Letting people go is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I just want to add, because I have personally, so when I started running companies, I actually decided to mentor one person per year, and I've done that for over 6 years. And one thing that I've learned about it is that the person you are going to mentor knows that they need mentorship. You have to not force someone who does not think that there's a value in it to now be like, oh, because you are a star, I want to just mentor you. It may not work that way, right? The person has to understand. There's one of my proteges who is literally like one of the top salespeople in the country. And, from the very beginning, he's the one showing up, right? So I think that helps, that hunger, that passion, and then also you now measuring how well they perform based on your culture, like the service, framework. You have to use that to say, this person is communicating well, he delivers excellent work, he knows how to lead, he knows how to do. So you combine that with the hunger the person has. From the very beginning, I've always known I needed mentorship, and I had a mentor straight out of school. So I think that people who you mentor should know that they need a mentor and value that experience of mentorship.
Okay. So, I've never had like a mentor and say, oh, my mentor. It does not work for me. What works for me is that at part time, I have somebody that maybe like just for 3 months, we're talking about something. It could be sales, it could be fundraising, it could be something, and that's my mentor for that 3 months. But what has worked for me over the years is peer-to-peer mentorship, right? And someone that is not too far from me that we can grab coffee anytime, we can talk for 5 hours anytime, I can call you anytime, we can check our books anytime. This is outside of like work, maybe you are mentioning your, down report, but just generally, how do you mentor each other as colleagues, founders, CEOs? I prefer that than to looking for somebody, up there that doesn't have your time. Yes, so I do that through the Next Gen program. The Next Gen program, I sit down with them, I have their time. Yes.
Well, I think, sorry, just to add to that, right, especially for like maybe leaders that are very busy, one other thing that I incorporated into my process is peer-to-peer mentorship. So I had the first set of salespeople, I'd, mentor them, mold them into what I wanted, and then the next set, you pair them with the OGs, in quotes, pair them with the OGs. So that way, you're building that culture of mentorship.
Alrighty, I think it's been an amazing session. Thank you so much.